Yeah. I'm Professor Fred Ogola. I'm LDP presidential aspirant, Liberal Democratic Party. I want to tell Kenyans that let us not always praise something called infrastructure development for its own sake. Most of infrastructure developments are extractive, but Kenyans need a productive economy. Why am I trying to say so? You can put a lot of money on road, you can put a lot of money on housing, but housing, they open businesses. Roads also open up businesses, but do they generate money directly? I think we have enough roads, but we have less productive industries that can employ people. So a priority is not building the Mau Rironi dual, no. The priority is, first of all, build an economic activity. I am sure you've heard this narrative that the Nakuru, Naivasha, Kisumu highway is always full because of traffic. But let me tell you, why is this traffic large? Have you ever asked yourself a question? And I want to tell you, I'm a Jesuit educated. I've done most of my degrees at Jesuit universities. I've been formed by Mill Hill missionaries. Jesuits focus on intellectual arm of the church. Mill Hill focus on the formation of the person in terms of character and values. I am also, if you like, Opus Dei molded about living your life through work. And I'm inspired by St. Francis, which means love for people, love for animals, love for humanity and the universe. And I want to tell you something very remarkable, that we must go to the root cause of the problem, not just scratch the surface of the symptoms. Now, why am I trying to say this? When you build this road, Mau Ronnie saw me saying that you are trying to save the traffic over Christmas, people sleep on the road. That's a wrong analogy. Because why are people coming to Nairobi? Because there's no job in Siaya. Why don't you create a factory in Siaya? You create a factory in Eldoret. You create a factory, something to manufacture something in those counties where people come from. From these people who follow Mau Summit, Rironi Road. What do they come to do in Nairobi so that in Christmas everybody is parked on the road? Because they are looking for opportunities. We are not yet in the age of rural-urban migration. We came out with the Constitution of Kenya 2010 to decentralize development. So if that is a success, why are people coming to Nairobi? Even me, I should go and work in Kisumu, or somebody should work in Siaya, or even we should decentralize the economy so that there is no traffic to Nairobi. Why is everybody coming to Nairobi if we have 47 counties? And Nairobi actually is the smallest county in Kenya. In fact, during Uhuru, it was not even a county. It was actually something managed by some other people. So I'm trying to say is this: the Mau Rironi Summit should not be built just because of traffic. We should look for what is causing traffic. What is causing traffic is poverty and lack of employment opportunities in other counties. Washingishu, if you put up factory there for people to work, they won't come here. You can go to Elgeyo Marakwet, you can go to Kericho County, decentralized development so that there will be no much traffic. If you go to a country like Germany, if you are to bomb Berlin and bombard it throughout, the economy of Germany will still be 0.2% positive. But if you bombard Nairobi, the Kenyan economy will have lost around 75% of the GDP. In fact, the economy will be 75% negative. So we have over-concentrated things in Nairobi, and that's why we're having traffic. In fact, you'll build it, there'll be still traffic. Thika Highway was built. Has the traffic ended? No. Mombasa Highway, even there's even Expressway. It has not ended, and it will not end until you solve one very important problem: decentralized development. Let regions grow. Go to Mandera, go to go to Wajir, go to Garissa. Ensure that all those counties develop together. Do not develop things like Gachagua saying focus on the central. No. Let us devolve development and let us decentralize that. That's one solution I can offer. Secondly, we are creating infrastructure fund. We are creating something called sovereign wealth fund. These are thought through. These are not well thought through because they are poor economics. And I'll tell you, William Ruto simply doesn't know how to run the economy. What is he doing? He's trying to tell us that with a Kenyan debt of 14 trillion, we can be able to build a sovereign wealth fund of 5 trillion. If you look at your M-Pesa and you have a fuliza of 14 trillion, can you be able to put 5 trillion in it and develop a sovereign wealth fund? Sovereign wealth fund, it should be a surplus. It should not be built by a country that is very high in debt. Let Kenya focus, first of all, on paying their debt, not doing all these things we are talking about, infrastructure fund. These things can be done differently by helping Kenya produce, generate enough revenue, and build them without too much debt. Even if you go to JKA, these can still be built using internally generated funds. Developed countries that have these sovereign wealth fund, infrastructure funds, have never used to sell its own assets like we are selling the assets of Safaricom. We want to sell Kenya Pipeline. This is a slush fund. It cannot work. It has never worked anywhere. It will not work in Kenya. Mark my words when I said in 2021 that Hustler, the bottom-up model, will never work, has never worked somewhere, will never work in Kenya, and is not working now. The same thing, this infrastructure fund. The same thing, I'm talking about the issue of sovereign wealth fund. To build roads, to build infrastructure, they'll never work. The arithmetic is wrong. It is arithmetically flawed, mathematically illogical, and it is inconsequential. So don't waste our time with this. This so-called route to Singapore. There is no route to Singapore. Singapore, first of all, we are talking about third world, first world, second world. You have to know that third world, second world, and first world were founded during Cold War, where the first world was US plus the capitalistic allies. The second world was USSR and the communist allies. So anybody who opposed the two worlds was called third world. So even Singapore, that is being called first world war, is actually categorized as third world according to that categorization. If you look at Japan, India, Korea, those are all falling under third world. So the journey from third world to first world cannot work because the president does not understand what is a first world, what is third world. We cannot allow ourselves to be blackmailed as a country. We are third world. We are not a third world. We are Kenya. Kenya has got everything to be world class. Let us talk about making Kenya world class, not making Kenya first world. It is completely illogical. And I want to say that when you talk about the issue of selling Safaricom, it has got serious challenges. One, it does not comply to Constitution 2010, especially Article 206, that mandates that any creation of a fund should go to the consolidated fund. So consolidated fund, once you sell Safaricom 15% and get 204 billion shillings, when you take this money to the consolidated fund, there is something there called fast charge. And the first charge means that that money arrives and goes to do the first and most important thing, which is what? Paying the debt. And we owe 13 trillion. So how do you put 204 billion in a coffer where you are 13 trillion negative? It will be swallowed. So it's an exercise in futility. And members of parliament have not created that fund. There is no oversight of that fund by members of parliament. So it is flawed just like the sovereign wealth fund, because sovereign wealth fund, one, is not a surplus. Two, there is no parliamentary oversight. Three, it is going to sit in the president's treasury only, not national treasury. It is going to be seen from Mbadi's own treasury. I'm hearing that Mbadi is creating a company where he's the only shareholder, where this fund will sit, infrastructure fund will sit. Let me tell you what, how can you set up a company where Mbadi is the only shareholder? Does that mean that the president is the shareholder in the name of Mbadi? Kenyans, let us not be deceived. I have all the details about it. This cannot work. Secondly, the security problems. Remember that all your data sits on Safaricom. Your health data, your finance data, your bio data, your any data, even your side chicks data is there. This Safaricom knows even who is your side chick. Now, I'm not saying it's good to have a side chick. I'm just trying to say the Safaricom knows. Now, we are handing over this to a foreign country. How dangerous is that? The other data which is dangerous is the election data. Safaricom is the only company that transmits the electoral results. When you hand over this one to a foreign company like Vodafone, what's going to happen is that Vodafone alone will access our data during the election. So a foreigner can be able to manipulate the foreign company, Vodafone, to give us MPs that will work on their favor. Someone can even go and bribe a foreign company. So according to me, it's not just a risk in health. It's not just risk in our education. Even education data is there. Financial data, but also a sovereign risk whereby you can end up with vifaranga via computer being generated by Vodafone through someone influencing our election. We cannot be sovereign because election is a sovereign exercise. It actually cannot work. The other data which is very critical here is that there's other risk is that there's a possibility of this Vodafone failing. Why am I trying to say so? Because they don't know that Safaricom is a strategic asset. If they fail, it will force the government again to go into their pocket to make them succeed. And it has happened in UK where all the privatization ended up creating very expensive public service and also made the services very poor. So as far as I'm concerned, we cannot be able to hand over this thing to a foreigner. The other issue which I have, which is very critical, is that the issue of employees. The employees of Safaricom, after being acquired a majority stake by Vodafone, will be in the hands of Vodafone. There could be retrenchment. There could be very bad work practices by Vodafone. The third thing is that also we have what we call agents. Agents that are throughout the country in Kenya who are built Safaricom, who go for M-Pesa. When you want to divorce M-Pesa, you want to withdraw. Those agents have put their sweat and blood to build Safaricom to what it is. Those agents will have been given a stake to buy Safaricom. So by offloading, it becomes the issue of sale of Safaricom to create the sovereign wealth fund is that when you sell this thing, 50%, you are looking for around 204 billion in terms of shillings. But when you issue these dividends, it will mean that Kenya will be issuing around 150 billion in dividends to foreigners every year, and that money leaves the country in the form of USD. That will devalue the Kenya shillings and also will remove this free circulation of funds in the country. And that will create inflation. That will create a lot of lack of cash circulation. And this money going to UK being repatriated is a very big thing, a risk to a country. I want to urge members of parliament and the government, please keep the money here. If the Kenyans are given a chance to buy the Safaricom shares at NSE through an IPO, you'll be sure that this money will circulate in the economy. What can our economy do with the circulation of dividends of 150 billion every year, just like the tea dividends, just like the coffee dividends, just like the sugar dividends? This is what I'm praying for this country. And when LDP takes over, we will reverse all this nonsense and ensure that we run a country that is run for Kenya. Kenya must be built by Kenyans using Kenyan resources all the time, but not rush to all these things. In fact, all the infrastructure development, including affordable housing, all these things are scams. I have done my maths. It is stated that by October last year, William Ruto reported that he has created 344,000 jobs in Kenya, while the National Bureau of Statistics reports that between 2022 and now, only 76,500 jobs have been created in Kenya. So do you want to trust William Ruto as the reporter, or do you want to trust the Kenya Bureau of Statistics? But remember, those statistics of 76,500 jobs, they are not actually from affordable housing. Those are just from the private sector. So there is nobody. Let me tell you, Kenyans, if you do your maths, do you know what it means to create 344,000 jobs? Do you know how many military we have? We don't have more than 150,000 military officers in Kenya. Do you know how many policemen we have? They are not up to 200,000. Now, where you live, at least you know one policeman who is your friend, who is your neighbor, whom you are in the same WhatsApp group, whom you go to church with, who is actually somebody you know. How comes no one in Kenya knows who is working in affordable housing except very few people? If we had 344,000 people working in affordable housing, at least you'll be going to church with them. At least one will be your neighbor, one will be your husband, one will be your wife, one will... These come of affordable housing. There is no job being created. The last thing about infrastructure and affordable housing is this, and this is the bottom line of everything. These things are not creating jobs. And I can tell you, you don't build affordable housing that you cannot export. But the alternative is this. Let us go to large-scale manufacturing as a silver bullet to cure all the Kenyan economic problem. Because Kenyan economic problem is clear. High inflation, a high interest rate, high debt, and then we talk about high unemployment among the youth. By doing large-scale production, you'll get youth being employed. You'll also get a high surplus of your products and export them. When you export them, you'll earn foreign exchange. When you earn foreign exchange, the interest rates will go down. And when you also have surplus, again, because supply is higher than demand, there will be no inflation. And when you have all this, everything will set up. The Kenyan shilling will be stronger because it will be on high demand for people to buy Kenyan products with it. This is the solution. The silver bullet is large-scale production in agriculture, even as simple as that, even before do value addition. LDP has a prototype for large-scale agricultural production that will produce 100,000 jobs in every county. It's not a manifesto. It is a prototype. A prototype, mfano, an example what we want to do. For example, a phone like this has a prototype. So a prototype of this one produce this phone. Have you seen a manifesto for Mercedes-Benz? No. But you have a prototype for Mercedes-Benz. That's why we have it. Have you seen a prototype for Nissan? No. But there's one Nissan prototype for Nissan. You have not seen a prototype for, you have seen a prototype for a house. You have never seen a manifesto for developing a house. Even if you want to marry a woman, don't tell them about manifesto. Give them a prototype of a family, how they'll be happy. That is what they'll buy. And if that is followed, then LDP is the party to go. We will never, ever launch manifestos, but we shall launch prototype for the economy, prototype for healthcare, prototype for education, prototype for youth unemployment, prototype for building infrastructure, prototype for national security, and prototype for a country free from corruption. God bless you. God bless Kenya. You have a lot of sound bites there, isn't it?